Afreximbank, as a key partner for the African Pooled Procurement Mechanism, has found this meeting and its deliberations very timely and very pertinent. Afreximbank has been a partner to ECA and Africa CDC since the onset of the COVID pandemic, when we were part of the African institutions that came together to come up with solutions to help the continent navigate the challenges of the pandemic. In our case, we committed over $2 billion to guarantee the procurement of critical vaccines for the continent and have been involved in the operational setup that delivered it. In a sense, I guess that's one of the examples of a large-scale pooled procurement initiative that the continent has taken. And from our perspective, we had key learnings from there that we believe are quite critical and fundamental to the successful implementation of the APPM. Now, as Afreximbank and as an institution that belongs to all of the member states of the AU, we stand ready and committed to apply our know-how, our experiences, and the financial commitments that we can to make this intervention a positive one for the continent. As we say again, we believe speed is of the essence and will encourage the prompt implementation of some of these initiatives for the benefit of the citizens of the continent. So we are ready and supportive to see this through. This, for a number of countries, is an alternative approach to how they procure critical needs, and is one that it's important that countries think through the risks as well as the benefits to them, because effectively it is something that they need to look at versus the way in which they are doing things. In a sense, they are also outsourcing the procurement of critical needs to potentially a third party. So any way in which that third party does not deliver affects their lives and livelihoods in their countries. So there's always that cautious approach. So it is important that this delivers quickly, effectively, and that the requirements of countries are being taken into account for, that countries are fully aware of the risks of participating in this initiative. It's a pooled arrangement. It relies on every part of that pool to meet its commitment. One is to establish credibility, because this is not going to be one-off, it's meant to be sustainable. And number two, to ensure that partners continue to be attracted to these mechanisms. I think once you begin to show positive outcomes for the countries, then it has that network effect, and we will soon see all countries beginning to join this initiative. That's a very fair observation, because countries will move at different speeds, they have different requirements. In an ideal scenario, you would look to harmonize some of the prevailing regulatory environments, but that's something that can be met later. I think in a sense, you have to take that classic 80-20 rule. If you can get alignment with about 80% of the participants in any pool procurement arrangement, I think you're good to go. Provide flexibility for some to join a little later on, but I think the mistake we'll make is trying to make sure that you've crossed every T, dotted every I before you move, right? So let's try and get the majority aligned, and then we move, and then help the rest to catch up. At the end of the day, I think the focus should be very much on some of these initial transactions. Call it a pilot, call it a proof of concept. I think that's where the immediate focus will be. Today, when people develop software, they talk about an agile approach. I think you need to take a similar approach. Get a minimum viable proposition out there for countries, show it can deliver, right? And then you refine as you go on, and then expand as you build up the framework. The Africa we want needs Africa that is not dependent on external parties and external factors for our well-being. We learned that very well during the COVID pandemic. Even though there were these initiatives to help the continent, Africa was at the back of the queue. So the Africa we want is an Africa that we are self-sufficient and dependent. So the objective of achieving about 60% of our requirements from manufacturing on the continent is a critical objective that I think we need to all work towards. This is a very critical initiative we are taking on board. Afreximbank, we're a financial institution, so the question would be, why would we necessarily be important? Our mandate is trade, but if you don't have health, how then do you support the trade that the continent needs? So for us, there's an imperative in terms of our mandate as a financial institution for the continent, and that is the reason why we're committing our resources to support its success.